I started working out with the coaches 3 times a week. 5 o'clock in the morning, I was on the floor. I was a client, right? I learned more by doing that than I had learned in the 15 years before, mostly about what do I like as a client for the coach to do, which informs how the coaches work, right? Because I was on the other side of it.
Hello, folks. What's up, Rami?
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, welcome back, man. You might not be the first 2-time guest, but you're the most important.
Thank you so much. I'm the most important today, Friday at 3 o'clock.
You're the most important person I'm podcasting with this afternoon.
You're the most important person in this room.
I promise you that. You really are.
I can already tell this is
So,
gonna
ladies
be
and
rough.
gentlemen, Rami O'Day is back, and today we're going to be talking about pre-sales because I think on every podcast, to the point where someone literally mentioned to me, yeah, you've mentioned that guy on every podcast for the last 5 in a row. So,
Does he really exist?
yeah, but
Is
I
he
mean,
really
there's
a
a
person?
real deal, and people are going to hear today. We're gonna break down, your story about your very successful pre-sale, how you do it, why you do the things you do. And we'll go from there. So
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Do you believe it's been 3 years since we did this?
Has it really?
Yeah.
If I guessed, I would have said less than a year.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I looked on it and, what I did is I Googled most popular podcast ever.
And then
ours popped up right
just
above
below
Joe Rogan.
I just saw Rogan had Zuckerberg.
Yeah, he was just below us.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, props to him for being second, right?
I know he's got.
Speaking of that, it's Friday afternoon.
Right.
I've kind of got away from drinking. So as you know,
This is going to be fun then.
bad for you, that kind of thing. So I'm not really a big drinker, but I'm going to have a drink today with you since it's Friday.
I'm going to have a beer, but I brought this for you.
Oh, is that a White Claw?
Yeah, but you can have that as a chaser for your whiskey.
So put it this way, like here we are. Rami is a coach beyond being just a sales extraordinaire. He also runs a coaching business where he coaches people in nutrition and health and hormones and all kinds of cool stuff. And he shows up to a podcast with a janky cooler that I had probably in 8th grade. It's full of cheap beer and White Claws.
There we go.
So there you go. Yeah. If you're watching, you can see that. If not, imagine the shittiest Coleman cooler you've ever seen with duct tape on it.
You know what? If you're going to get me up here on a Friday afternoon, man, we're going to be drinking. And I'm glad that you haven't been drinking, so this will be fun to watch. So I'll leave the White Claw for later.
Did you open your beer?
I did. We're good. Cheers,
Salud,
brother.
my friend.
Cheers. This is going to be fun.
Heck yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, I can't believe it's 3 years.
Good. Boy, I'm out of practice. That
As a
doesn't bite to
nutrition
it.
coach, as a nutrition coach, I did put a vegetable in there or a fruit.
Yeah, that's a fruit, by the way.
I know. See, I'm not really
Not
good
a potato.
I'm
It's
not really good at my
confusing. Or
job.
tomato.
Cucumbers are fruits.
Eat
too.
more fruits.
And olives.
Have
yeah.
a potato.
Exactly. Well, I brought you some gifts. Let's start with that.
All right, what you got?
I brought you a real shirt that you can wear instead of your alloy crap, although I'm wearing all of it. Coach Rami. There you
I
go.
like that.
Double
I like that.
XL
Who's
for
Coach,
you.
Who's Coach Rami?
I know. That's
Sounds like a schmuck.
I just wanted to hold that there on the whole podcast.
I like the color.
And then just to get the podcast going, here's all my nicotine gum that I have left over. So that's all for you.
Boy, you don't like it?
The first stimulant in my whole life, an ergogenic aid that I do not like. So it makes me throw up. So I'm going to give it to you.
I normally chew Nicorette, but I'll give this a go. So anybody that's listening, like Rami and I are on this never ending. Rami's like 77 years old. I'm 52.
I'm 104.
We're constantly looking for performance hacks, and like it's sort of an inside joke with us, like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's turned me on to this crazy tonic that helps you sell stuff. And I was like, yeah, I chew nicotine gum periodically as a nootropic. So anyway, not to get too far off subject, but thank you very much. I will try these, and hopefully they won't make me throw up.
Well, I think they're really, really strong. So just FYI, chew it, and then it says chew it and park it. Had no idea what that meant. It means just bite it once and then keep it in your gums.
Oh, okay.
I chewed the whole thing and basically ended up in the bathroom. So you can try that if you want.
So you chew it just to bust it open and then
then
just
keep
park
it in.
it like a.
You got it.
Okay, got it. Interesting.
All right.
Well,
So
thanks for
we're
that, because I would have chewed it.
We're already off the rails.
That's fine, dude. Look, it's Friday. We'll let it go where it goes, right? Because, also the thing about Rami that you guys may remember from the previous podcast, if you've been following along, is he's a consummate entrepreneur. So he's had his own gym, his own private brand that he sold. He's started a coaching business. He does consulting for corporate wellness. He's done a lot of things in the industry. So I'm really proud of the fact that, A, we're friends, but B, he's now an Alloy franchisee, which is super cool. And he's got 2 locations. So not just one, but 2 already. And I have to tell you, like the damage that he did in a positive way in a pre-sale, the reason I keep bringing him up is we just haven't seen it. And we've worked with some really good salespeople. And so I'm probably going to learn a lot today. And all kidding aside, like, you know, we joke each other, but I don't think I have any idea of like how well that you did. What was your overall closing percentage? I know we're going to get into stats later, but
I'm probably close to 40% now. So I was over 35 when we kind of shut down the marketing.
And keep in mind, you guys, pre-sale marketing is selling something that doesn't yet exist over the telephone. And what we count as an actual sale means that you get an agreement signed and returned, you collect a credit card, you run a $0 transaction to make sure that that credit card is valid. So there's a lot going into for us to be able to count it as an actual sale. Our expectation for a healthy club is 15% of all leads closed. So 40% is ridiculous. I mean, Atlanta's a very competitive market. So I will tell you that different markets are different with the same budget as far as, you know, ad spend or leads produced from ad spend. Some of our markets, you know, $8, $12 leads. I think in Atlanta, we start in the low 20s, ends up in the mid 40s by the time it's over. But on a relatively reasonable spend at that closing percentage, you know, I know we'll get into like, I think it was 8 weeks or something, completely sold out the gym, like 150 memberships. I think at this point you've sold nearly 200 total memberships.
Yeah, but we'll get into that too. Sure. You know, I want to dive into that too, like where that happened. So I just think it's so funny that 3 years ago I had just sold my gym, which, you know, 3 months before that we were technically competitors, been friends for 20 years.
Right.
And now I'm walking in here with, you can't see them, but alloy socks, alloy shirt, alloy hat. I got the alloy tattoo on my lower back that you told me to do. You said that was a good idea.
Well, it was a requirement at the time. We've since changed our mind. It's a horrible idea. Well, you were the only one. Once I saw your tramp stamp when you've been over to pick up those items on the floor.
My wife thinks it's a little weird, but
maybe not. So we kind of dropped the whole required tramp stamp.
Do you know a good laser place that can take it off? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
yes.
I just think it's really funny and one of those things in life that how life can change, right? Like, you know, you and I have been friends for a long time and we've helped each other, and I helped you in the beginning and you helped me. And then all of a sudden, you know, we can talk about how it got to this point. Now we're working together. It's super cool.
Yeah,
you know, and who would have thought that in 2019 when we did the last podcast? I was, you know, remember my goal was sell the gym. Not sure what I'm going to do. I want to do coaching, but I just want to do it with just me. Like that was my whole thing. I just want to be me and a computer and a phone.
Right.
I want to go anywhere, be a coach.
Worn out from having running a team, brick and mortar, the whole thing.
Through a really hard time and then bringing it back. So so I can dive into that, like how we got there, and then we can kind of dive into the pre-sale.
Yeah,
that's cool with you.
I'm
already taking over the podcast. This is like
I'll just this is
just drink.
Matt's going to be so bummed because he rarely gets a speaking part, and this will be the inverse of that. I won't say a word. There's only one person that can out-talk me, and he's sitting right next to me right now.
It's horrible when we go to dinner. It's like the funniest thing ever. So we both made sure we peed before this podcast. So that's good. So we don't have to do it. Yeah. So, you know, when I did it, when I sold the business, just haphazardly ended up going into consulting, right? And I didn't do it like I planned it or anything. I just had somebody reach out to me. His son wanted to open a gym. He's like, hey, would you help my son do this? And of course I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I called you and I'm like, what do you do? Like, how much do you charge? And what is a consultant? And did that. And it ended up having a few clients, you know, doing that, which is really, really fun. You know, consulting I think is great. You know, I'd say it's more like being a grandfather versus a father, you know, like you get all the fun, right? But not as much as the work. Yeah. Like, here's what I think you should do. But if you don't do it, you know, that's on you. Right. And
interestingly, that's similar to when we were licensing,
right?
Because we would give everyone everything they needed, sort of up to them to do it. Now that we're franchising, we have more control, but we're also both, you know, we're both benefiting from performance or lack thereof either way.
Right.
So we went from more like grandfather to father. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting how you bounced around. Yeah. It's funny. I had a call yesterday, just as we'll digress 8,000 times in this podcast. And I was talking to him about becoming an Alloy franchisee, and he used to work for Gold's Gym. And he's like, why do I know Alloy? Oh, we used to run their programs. And he's like, so he knew everything about you already, which was really cool. Awesome. So anyway, one of my consulting clients was Joy, who used to work for me at Formwell, right, at my old gym. And I was just helping her. She really wanted to go out on her own. And she was working at a gym, and she wanted to buy it. And she said, will you just look at the financials and, you know, kind of tell me if it's a good buy
This
or
was
not.
a different gym, like a third part, like a privately owned
Yeah,
gym.
she had left Formwell and she just went to another kind of personal training gym. And And I think it was a woman's only, and it was a mess, like a lot of these mom and pops are. The books were terrible, the profit was horrible, and half of the gym would leave once it was sold because they would follow the owner.
Right.
One of those deals, right?
Yeah,
Like they were all training with the owner. So I kind of talked her out of it. And at the same time, you and I were, I was going to dinner with you, and you were telling me about the franchise, and this was, when was this?
2020.
Yeah, it was 2020, right? Because it was post-COVID. We were kind of in that world, kind of.
Like right in the midst of it,
right
really.
when it started. Yeah, God, time is so weird, And so I kind of steered her towards Alloy, right? And so helped her through that process and, from the how to get a loan and all that kind of stuff and really helped her with it. And as I was doing it, I kind of fell in love with it. I hate to tell you, but you got a really good product here. Obviously, I'm wearing it. Here we go.
That pains him. You guys have no idea how
6 beers before
hard
I got
it is
here,
for him to say that.
Kills me. I'm wearing your
I have a
stuff.
small tear like the Indian that saw the trash in that old commercial.
Oh, I literally, every time I'm doing a call or whatever, I preface it with, I hate if Rick listens to this, but however, it's a really good product. So anyway, I fell in love with it, really helped her do it. And, basically just consulted her up to the point that my non-compete was over. And after my non-compete was over, I said, you know what? I think I want to buy in on this. Now, I didn't want to become a majority owner. I didn't want to own the whole thing, but I just wanted to be more involved than just a consultant, right? I wanted to have a little skin in the game. So I ended up investing in this, in her and doing some sweat equity and then becoming partners with her. She's the majority owner. She's running it. I'm not there every day. But that's how we got here, right? And then that sort of led to me helping find other, Alloy people and then finding another partner to do that. So that's how we got to the point where I'm back doing sales, on that Al Pacino thing. We talked about this, right?
Just when
I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And but in a testament to you, and again, I hate to do this, it's going to kill me in this whole podcast. It's destroying me. This is why I drink, is that it's so much fun and such a good product that it brought a guy back out of basically quote unquote retirement. I wasn't retired, but I was retired from running a gym.
Right.
I thought this is the only way I would get back in because it's so buttoned up and it has so much. It's still, I don't lie to anybody. It's still a job. You still have to work, right? It's not like you just turn it on and it makes money.
Yeah, that's that whole like complete absentee versus semi-absentee.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, if you want a complete absentee, buy multifamily housing, throw some money at the stock market. That's absentee, right? Owning a business is never fully absentee. Come on.
Not at all. And so that really brought me back out, it got me excited about it again. And really, we'll talk about the pre-sale is like where my passion, I kind of lost my passion for that side of the business. Still love coaching, still love the corporate wellness, love motivational speaking. Like that's really where I was headed. So it was a really kind of cool transition to get there, Yep. And so I don't remember the timeline. You might remember better than me. Like when
Joy. It's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it took a while. It took a while. I think it was like financing stuff and all that, and then, but once we started, it flew. So let's call it a year ago, when we started this. Yeah,
pretty cool. And you guys got open pretty quick. So construction went ahead of time.
Yeah.
Real estate was great.
Got spoiled.
So it went quick. Yeah, exactly.
Rami's in real estate. Another one.
Rami's in real estate search for a second club, and Atlanta's a busy market. So it's a little bit more difficult. The first one was like, bam, bam, done. So, well, listen, to keep us on track, because we can talk about a lot of things and we have a good time doing it. We broke it down into 3 categories. And so the first one, and I think these are the 3 most compelling things or the main reasons why someone would be successful in pre-selling, right?
Yep.
Would you agree? Based on what we set up. Yep. So the first one is why. And that's from whoever's sitting in that seat. So when you're pre-selling, what is your why? And it's a kind of an often used term, maybe overused, but speak to that. Like, why is that really, why is your big why really important?
Yeah. And it's interesting because this is what I do in coaching, right? I do a lot of nutritional coaching. And what does somebody come to me? What's their first thing? I want to lose weight. What do I ask them? Why? Well, because my doctor told me to. Well, why? Because this. Yes. And that onion that you peel back and you keep going till you get to the real reason. And it's fun. You never know what that's going to be, right? You really don't know. Like everybody thinks it's aesthetic or, it's, I have high cholesterol or whatever. It's rarely that. When you really peel back the onion and get to that, it's some of the strangest stuff you've ever heard. And that's the real one, right? Like my new partner's with Keller Williams. My wife works for Keller Williams, and Gary Keller, he's coined it, said if it doesn't make you cry, it's not a big enough why, right? I love that because it has to have an emotional component. Even if somebody says to me, I don't want to get dementia. Well, why is that important? All of a sudden the phone pauses and they're like, my father had dementia. I watched that happen. I hate it. I hate to do it, but all of a sudden we have the why. And then every time they go off track, I bring them back to that. So for me, I realized really quickly, I have, like you said, I have a full-time coaching position. I have a full-time corporate wellness job. Pre-sales a full-time job. And I tell that to everybody that's doing it, right? And I realized quickly, this is going to be an incredible push, right? I realized that week one when 40 leads came in 3 days, right? And luckily the management of it is so great. The thing that you and I have that a lot of people don't is perspective. I go all the way back to leads on a piece of paper,
yes,
then spreadsheets, then, something a little more sophisticated that would date, put them in dates and all that. So I kind of dove in. I said, why, how am I going to do this? Where's my why? And I realized when I sold the business and I started coaching, doing corporate wellness, it did really well. Like I was blessed that I moved everything to virtual during COVID. So I actually grew my business during COVID, which was crazy, right?
That's awesome.
Which was a blessing, but I am trading time for money. I am the product. And God forbid something happens to me, right? So, obviously I have life insurance and all that, but what if, imagine if I lost my voice, Rick? What would you do?
Man, it'd be amazing, actually.
Party.
Imagine how much tendonitis I would have trying to sign with you at the pace that we normally talk at. Pretty sure both of my hands would be.
But oh my God, that would be hilarious. So, but really, like imagine that, like I lose my voice. That's all I do all day is talk and coach, right?
Yep.
And so for me, this provided an opportunity to have semi-residual income, right? It was, I could have something that, and I even wrote the contract, Joy and Matthew are the other owners. They have life insurance on me. And, if I pass away, they buy me out with that life insurance. So Heather gets paid. So my wife gets paid.
Like key man insurance.
Key man insurance. Yeah. I feel really important. I like that. Call me
key
the key man.
I'm insured.
So that was so powerful to me when the days got long, when, you had a bunch of no's in a row or you just didn't do it, is that I kept going back to the fact that, first of all, it's a 12-week push. And that's a big why right there. Like realizing that, wow, this product is push really hard for 12 weeks. And then, coast is a nice word. You're never really coasting, but never like that first 12 weeks.
And let me stop you there. That's great. But keep in mind, you guys, when Rami's talking about this, so in the partnership, Rami's specialty and what he was bringing to the table is this amazing ability to communicate with people. He's very passionate, as you can tell. He's a great speaker. He can articulate thoughts really well.
How much of this have you had?
Not much. Okay. This is making me a little nauseous, but it's all true. And so your real specialty is the fact that you can go out and you can get people to move in the right direction, right? Because you're convincing. You've got this educational background that's really strong, and you can sell essentially at the end of the day. And you use that word; it's almost like a dirty term in some cases, but we're selling a positive, life-changing thing for people. So heaven forbid you convince somebody to do something that makes them healthy. Sales in this regard is a really good word. On the other end of that is Joy, and Joy is really good with the community outreach, community building, care of the client. She's a great coach.
Really good coach. Yeah.
So you put all that together and it's kind of like the perfect mix. You've got someone who's going to go out and sell. So when Rami says he's going to push for 12 weeks, he's pushing for 12 weeks and he's sort of, we always use this hunter and gardener conundrum, right? Where Rami's out there killing stuff and then he's bringing it back and throwing it over the fence. And then, Joy's planting it and taking care of it and trying to keep our churn where it normally is. And so with that duality, that's the ideal type of partnership. So when he says, I'm going to push for 12 weeks, that's because he has a partner who's going to be, taking care of people after he sells them. So that's his role, that's her role, and that makes that possible. I just want to make sure that I explain that because in some of our cases, that may be the same person and they're going to have to switch gears from hunter to gardener, right?
Sure.
And that can be sometimes difficult to understand. It's like, okay, the gym is sold full. I have to get on the care side now, right? And it's hard to switch gears. For you guys, you had these clear delineated roles, made it much easier. Anyway, go ahead.
And that has matured, and we've figured that out as we've gone along, and we've done some really cool pivots, learning through that process, right? So so that was part of it, is that I had no problem putting in these super long weeks and super long hours when I knew my why was that powerful, right? Like I'm building basically a legacy, right? I'm building something that lives after me, which, the rest of my businesses, except for maybe selling my books, they all disappear if I go away. And that was, you don't think about that.
To the Rami's list of
Can you put the Coach Rami
accolades.
shirt up again and show the website?
He's written 2 books already, so he's also an author.
3.1 books.
3.5 books, sorry.
So I'm a co-author of a 4th one now. So
amazing.
That's fun.
I don't even keep up with all the crap you're doing. I really don't. I have to go to dinner to hear I wrote another book. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, in my spare time.
I just wrote one. Yes. So that was really powerful. So the why, and I literally wrote it down, which I tell all my clients to do. It was kind of cool becoming my own client, right? So kind of applying what I apply with my coaching, and I wrote it down everywhere, and I would repeat it to myself, and I shared it with my family, because I knew within the first week, we're not going anywhere for 12 weeks. We're not going on vacation. I'm going to take my downtime super seriously. And I made some mistakes in the beginning. I did not take downtime. And that's something I've coached. I do these validation calls, and I talk to new owners, and I'm like, you have to have that at least one day a week, and that's about it. But it's got to be true downtime to get away. And so, I had that powerful why. I feel blessed to have it. And that really drove me more than anything, and then, also knowing the business and knowing the numbers was a powerful why, right? So when I would close somebody, get their credit card, get them set up, and at the end, actually book them for an appointment once we had the gym open, I saw that as an $11,000 sale, not a $359 a month sale. That's so different.
Based on lifetime value of our customer. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's even more. I think we'll keep people even longer, but the average.
Well, and I remember you and I, because when you were in presale, you were on your game, man. You were texting me and you would go I think, what was your record? 20 for 20.
I have 21. All the numbers here.
Okay, wait, he's going to share his stats at some point.
The stats are fun.
But, he would keep all of his stats, and he would talk about it through that lens. But anyway, I'll get you off track. So
no, it's easy to do. I get myself off track. But but plus I'm super competitive, and you know that, and I'm a numbers geek. And I was constantly asking you, has anybody else done this? And what's the record per day? And what's the most in the first week? Because these are all, to me, there's an overarching why, but then you need little things throughout the day.
Now, what is because you haven't touched on this, and I know, we are very competitive. We track numbers. We've both been entrepreneurs for a long time. That's how you keep score as an adult, right? In a business, certainly. But is there an altruistic why for you, like an overreaching, like helping people why?
Yeah, it is.
And if so, speak to that.
Yeah, it is the biggest thing, right? And that's the other thing, these are the things that I like to share with you guys. But ultimately, really, truly, I would do this all for free. I really would. And that's why I know I'm in the right career. If I was independently wealthy and didn't have to do it, I would do it for free. And that tells me that I really love this. And, and I do that. I mean, I probably shouldn't put this on the air because I know 18 million people are going to listen to this. But when somebody can't afford my services, I do it pro bono, and I don't do a lot of it because I can't. I only have so many hours. Sure. But if somebody, or what if I have a client who comes on hard times? I continue working with them if I can, if I can fit them in. Right. And so to me, look, this is why we got in this. You and I think we'd be really good stockbrokers. I think we could do that all day. I think we could probably do a lot of other things to make money, but the fact is we really love it. And, seeing change in people's lives, posting things about people, that stuff's not just, there's a lot more to it.
Right.
And so that is,
You did a good job of sharing some of your notes along the way of people that you could tell that you had to work a bit to convince them to make some lifestyle changes. They would maybe go into the club twice, and then they're sending you, Rami, I look forward now to working out. Now I believe you. Thank you so much for pushing me. And before I forget, because I know I will, this would probably fit more into one of the later topics because we're going to talk about 3 things, but I need to say it now because I'm going to forget. So we have an investment group here in town who invested in some operators.
A funny story.
And one of the investment group owners or the principals that was visiting with us, he lives near the Dunwoody Club that you own. And he said, I reached out to the club at Dunwoody because I need this for me, right? I was like, oh yeah, it's great. And I said, well, did you talk to anybody? He said, well, somebody there named Rami. I'm like, Rami?
I need a nickname.
He goes, Rami. He said, man, He texted me like 10 times. He called me 5 times. So then knowing what he was going to say, because he was saying it in a way he was very excited, right? And so I said, well, were you bothered by that? And I say that tongue in cheek, but also not, because I can't tell you how many times, whether it's in licensing or now in franchising, that people feel like, I don't want to, and I'm air quoting, bother people.
Right.
So here is, and I'm talking to the audience here. Here I am sitting next to a person who cares enough. Like his why is so big. Yes, he's competitive and all that, but none of that matters if he wasn't what he told you. He'd do it for free, right? He texts somebody 10 times and calls them 5 times to follow up because he knows, one of 2 things. And I saw this quote the other day, like, a maybe is the worst thing for someone selling.
Yep.
You get a yes or you get a no, and then a no saves you time. A no buys you time, and a yes buys you money.
Yeah, no is a better
results.
than no answer.
Correct.
For sure.
And so Rami is relentless in his pursuit to get people to commit, and more than likely with a yes. And so I asked this individual, were you bothered, and I'm air quoting again, by that relentless? And he goes, no, I appreciate it so much. I need that, is what he said. Like, I'm not going to go in there. Every time he either messaged me or called me, he included something personal. He included some humor. He's like, I think it's fantastic. Like, I don't know who this guy is, but he was just raving about it. So
did I close him?
I don't know.
I did. I know who it is.
Yeah. He's awesome, right?
Yeah, he's
and
great.
So if you think about, I want anybody listening who's a current franchisee or maybe even just in the industry, like, why would you not do that? Like, this is somebody who's on the other end of it saying, no, it doesn't bother me. I am so thankful that he did it. Now, listen to the way Rami did it. There was always humor. There was something personal. It wasn't a transactional conversation. It was about one person who believes and is convicted in what they have, and that person is trying to help someone else. That's all. That's where that comes from. Yes, there's a score. Yes, we're competitive. It's fun. It's gamesmanship. But if that other underlying helping part wasn't there, wouldn't mean shit. Like you said, we could be doing selling stocks.
No doubt. And and also you and I, again, we're so blessed to have perspective and wisdom because we've been in the industry for 30 years. I can't believe I'm saying that. That's amazing.
Is that what you call it? Wisdom?
Yeah. Wisdom, I don't know. But
it is true though. You stick around long enough, you're going to learn a few things.
Learn a few things. And one of the things I've learned is I'm going to call it 95 to 97% of the time. That's the response I get. I get thanked. 3% of the time I get, leave me the heck alone, right? It's a very small percentage of people that are annoyed by that.
Why do you think it is? Do you think it's just the way humans are wired? If it's a 97 to 3% as an example, and I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Why is it in our nature to be discouraged by 1 or 2 negative conversations and then somehow tell ourselves the story that everyone feels that way?
Yeah.
When in fact 97% of people love it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that
Well,
is?
we're wired that way, and we've talked about this multiple times, the reticular activating system, right? We were trained to look for the lion in the bushes, right? So we're always looking for what's wrong. When you walk in this room, you don't look around and see everything that's perfect. You see the speck of dust over there, right? When you guys walked into our gym, first thing Suzanne saw was the LA logo was off yellow.
Right.
Everything else was perfect.
Yes, right.
I didn't. Of course,
the place was packed with happy clients.
Yeah,
Heather
full.
was coaching like a
my
baller.
wife
She's
is
running
coaching.
around like slapping backs.
That
and
color's not right.
Everybody's happy, and I'm like, "Ooh, that logo." Yeah. So
that's the way we're wired. And it's the bottom line is you have to realize that. And look, I have to self-talk myself all the time. And I had days, and just to jump ahead, like I had bad days. I had days where I got 4 no's in a row. When I get 4 no's in a row, it's not the leads. It's not a bad day. It's something I'm doing. And when that happens, I dive in and see what's going on, but I didn't get discouraged. I didn't change my, I didn't stop what I was doing. Right. I just realized, okay, something happened.
Well, a lot of that I think it's what you and I've talked about. Like you have feelings about things. And then there's the reality of the things, right? So, of course, when someone says no, and if you throw up 4 goose eggs in a row, you're going to feel bad.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean the reality is that you're not going to nail whatever numbers you're going to tell us later, 20 of 21 or something in a row.
Right.
Like that's coming, but you have to have the perspective, like you've mentioned, to look at those 4 and maybe say, all right, well, I didn't take Sunday off. I'm off my game a little bit,
That's exactly what it was.
I walked into these conversations a little bit beat down, and believing in it. This is another thing I want to touch on the why. A good friend of mine, Alex Ramosi, I was listening to something he said, and we actually had a conversation about it, and it was sort of like all the scripts and the playbooks and the, if this and that, around sales, those are important. They really are. Don't get me wrong. But none of those work if the person that's implementing them isn't super convicted about the thing that they're selling, because
Agreed.
it's going to come out in tonality, I guess effort, which we'll get to later, excitement, relentlessness, all that stuff is going to manifest itself around the same blocking and tackling, or X's and O's, if you will, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the why has to be there, right? Yeah. That's why the why is so important, because it'll make you do the same things that someone else does.
Yeah.
To your point, you're like, I missed 4 calls in a row, right? And it was me. And if you take a step back, it's like, well, I'm tired from yesterday. So I'm doing the same things like on paper, but they're so different when I'm fresh and really convicted.
I went back and listened to my own calls. I listened to myself,
awesome,
and then I sent them to Jared and I said, what am I doing here? And, he was like, well, let's talk this through. And I literally figured it out in one day instead of waiting weeks or whatever.
You know how painful that can be for some people though? Like, I mean, I don't
Look,
even
I wouldn't have done it 10 years ago, even.
Right.
Maybe 10 minutes ago, but no, I wouldn't have done it, like I really wouldn't have.
Right.
And, my ego was too big, but life has softened our egos a little bit, right?
I'd say.
Shit happens. Yeah, you got to do it. Really funny side story. We have a client. She's a great client, love her. She's referred people to us, and she's, long story short, is she's thinking about taking a break, right? So I got on a call with her. She's only been with us 2 months. We've only been open for 2 months, and talked for a half hour, and really tried to peel it back. Why are you thinking about quitting? Why, so early in the game and all that? That's not why I'm telling the story. The story is funny because my wife trains there now. Heather trains there now, and this client specifically almost always trains with Heather, and actually loves Heather. Really, really does. In fact, gave her major kudos about that's the one reason I'm really loving like Alloy, like my connection with her. She'd always done one-on-one training, so that's a little the problem. She's getting connected instead to the product. And so when she's not with Heather, it's different, quote unquote, whatever, right?
Right.
So Heather went in, we record all our calls, right? So we're going out to dinner, and she goes, I want you to know I listened to your call. And I was like, oh God, right?
Heather did.
Say? Heather did, because she has access to all of them. And she goes, I couldn't believe it. You were so supportive. Now, first of all, I'm like, what do you mean you can't believe it? That I was supportive, right? Like, but I didn't read it that way.
Nice.
I know, no, but she said, you repeated back to her everything she said. You listened to what she did. You came up with solutions. She's like, and getting to my point, she's like, 10 years ago, that guy you would have been defensive and argued with her and like, why aren't you working out and all that kind of stuff. Getting back to this whole thing is like, it's the reps, right? You realize that none of that works. You just have to listen to people. When I listen to sales calls, people ask me to listen to them. First thing I hear is they're just talking too much, right? And look, I like to talk. I don't know if you know that, but I really do enjoy talking just a tad. So it's hard for me. I have to do like little things where I sit on my hands and I do this zip thing to make myself stop talking.
Oh, that's so funny.
I literally do.
That's great.
Yeah,
though.
no, I do all that, right? It's really good for marriage too, right, honey? If you're listening to this, but yeah.
She's not.
She's not. Don't worry. She's never going to hear this.
Heather.
No one's ever going to hear this. Anyway, so we got off track, but the bottom line is
this is gold, because I think people need to hear. I mean, there's so many little nuggets in here, right? We've said a million times, the rule in sales is whoever's talking is losing.
No doubt.
And I think in this case, looking at your why and that altruistic why, the overreaching why, you do this even if you didn't get paid, the reason that you work hard to follow these rules, right?
Yeah.
Again, you approach it with more conviction when you're a believer in the end result of it, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, I'm willing to not talk as much, because I understand that if I'm asking questions and I'm peeling onions, that's what's going to get that person connected to what we're doing. And so, yes, it's at the expense of what you'd like to do.
Yeah.
But it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's really is.
It's not easy. And to build techniques to overcome it is like, again, that's like a next level maturity, man. That's awesome.
Again, this is the Rick building ego show I've decided today, which is absolutely destroying me. I know.
Matt only breaks me down. I'm not used to the build up.
We didn't even start with a joke because I have none, but I believe in this product more than I believe in my old company. That's really powerful.
I appreciate that.
No, I really do.
You had a dope company.
Oh, thank you. And I don't not believe in it. I think we did. But, one of the things I do is, it's a joke, but anything a potential client says to me, I say back, we can do that. Save, I want to be a D1 athlete or whatever. Even that, I don't know. We could probably come close on that. We've really
done
could.
It. It's not our core business, but of course
it's not. Yeah, it would be a little off, but right. Really just about everything. Oh, you want to lose weight? We can do that. But I'm not saying it as a sales technique. I 100% passionately believe it. Like, we really can do that.
Do you think, I'm going to stop you there because I love where we're going with this. So do you think it would be difficult for someone who didn't fully experience what we do to sell what we do? But let me.
What do you mean?
All right, so when you're talking to someone, common goal like weight loss, perfect for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back pain, check. I've had the knee replacement, good to go, right? I haven't worked out in 20 years, fine. I'm 300 pounds, great, right? But
Are
you
you talking
really
about
mean
me?
it. If you're only listening to audio, I just physically describe Rami in great detail.
Thank you for saying that in front of everybody.
Now he's all buffed up and looking good as always. But I say that meaning it's what's interesting is, and one thing that we're improving as a franchise is how do we get like the folks that come here that are going to be pre-selling and are working in the gym. It's really hard to have that conviction unless you've lived it. Like you know what we do because you've been in the industry for a long time and you have perspective, right? And you know, like, wow, like the way you guys program is really cool because you've been in programming for 30 years and habit change and all the little things that go into just taking something that if you didn't know better might just look like that dirty C word. It might just look like you're teaching a class, but you're not, right? And there's all these great things. So if I'm on the front end of that, selling it, if I believe in it at the level that you do, it's going to come out in every conversation. Like, oh, I don't know if guys can help me. I've had a knee replacement. Your response to that is going to be so confident and convicted about what we can do, right? Do you think there's something to that? Should people invest in practicing the workouts? Or, I would say yes, but like, what are your thoughts? Like, how would we get somebody from, yes, I'm selling it, but I'm not fully sure what I'm selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I'll step back to when I was running my old company, and I didn't start doing this till about 5 years before I sold it. I started working out with the coaches 3 times a week, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was on the floor. I was a client, right? I learned more by doing that than I had learned in the 15 years before mostly about what do I like as a client for the coach to do, which informs how the coaches work, right? Because I was on the other side of it. So I think we should all do it and we should all experience all of it. Like, for instance, before this, I had a link to another supplement company, right? And I was doing everything. And then, so I did an interview with your supplement guy, with the CEO of that, learned all about the stuff before I did it. And before I even linked my coaching company to our supplements, I did all the supplements for a month. And by far the best tasting protein powder I've ever had. And I've had a lot.
I would agree.
It's
and I've
so
tried
good.
them all.
All of them. It's really good with vodka. No, anyway, so remember to drink water when you have beer. But that's my point. Like I'm a big believer in integrity and doing things before you do it, and before you try to sell it. And I think that is the key. You have to have that true belief.
So you've got to get in there and experience it for yourself.
Really
other examples
and it's fun.
of that.
It's not like you're forcing me to do something
And
I
you're
don't want
already
to do.
working out anyway,
right?
So
why wouldn't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Other examples of that, and you've probably experienced this in your business, is like one of our best salespeople when we were just one location a long time ago was our front desk individual.
Yeah.
Her name was Lori. She was awesome. But Lori had a back problem and had lost a bunch of weight and experienced like less back pain and all the good things that come with working out. Well, she was always the first contact in the club because at that time we had a front desk. So if someone called or they walked in, she had no sales training at all. Now, she was really funny and a very engaging person, but she could sell anyone what we do simply by sitting in the seat of the individual she was talking to. Like, girl, I used to be you. Let me tell you what happened to me, right? And it was the best sales technique ever because she had experienced it as a consumer.
Yeah. Yeah. And having been also watched so many people succeed, right? Yeah. Because look, you're a 52-year-old menopausal woman, and I'm trying to tell you that we can help you lose weight. I know you are, and you're not looking good. And so, but I've seen it help hundreds of women in that place. So I don't try to say I understand what you're going through because of course I don't, but I've seen it work. Right?
Yes.
Let me use Joy as an example. I've just thought of this. Like, she was a client at Formwell first. I don't know if you know that. So she started as a client. Joy is a crazy ultra runner, like makes me look like I don't run.
She's a baller.
200-mile runs, like amazing, right? And never lifted weights. and ate like 8 grams of protein a day, right? You know, a lot of vegetables, like almost like a vegan type diet, came as a client, worked with me a little bit with nutrition, started lifting, started eating more protein, you know, begrudgingly, right? She's very strong-willed, and all of a sudden, less injuries, and her running was better. So that's the space she comes from, right? Like she literally changed her whole, you know, body composition and how she did, and her injury rehab and how well she does in running by doing the programs that we do. Because we were pretty much running the Alloy programs at
we were doing the
Formwell.
licensing thing.
Yeah. So we were doing all the programming and all that. So, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Whatever you can do to, you know, integrate yourself into the business and understand the product, and don't just watch it. You got to jump in.
The clarity comes in doing, not
you gotta
watching
do it.
or doing
yeah,
it.
Both coaching it and being a client.
It's a little bit harder, you know, for maybe somebody who's new to it, but I would just say fully lean in. You know, it's hard to know unless you do it. I speak to this through the lens of our very first franchisee, which are there in Summerfield. 2 coaches working at an Alloy licensed big box gym, like a family gym, already fully bought into the results of the programming. So then when they move over and open their facility, you know, neither one of them had been an entrepreneur. They're both tough, and they both really knew how to take care of clients. Their biggest superpower was they so believed in their programs.
Yeah.
It was so easy for them to sell. Like, no sales techniques, no nothing. It didn't matter. You could sit down with them and they were so excited they could sell anyone anything Alloy related. And they opened in the middle of 2020, and all the way until now, they have the lowest churn rate of any of our clubs, better than our advertised churn rate with a pandemic. Because you know why? They love what they do. They fully believe in it. They love their clients. It's amazing. So there's something to that. So anybody listening that's a current Alloy franchisee or thinking about getting into the business, like, fully immerse yourself in what it is that we do. Because if you experience it personally, and it's hard for you to understand, you haven't experienced having a bunch of clients see the results. That will come over time. Once you've helped 300 people in 5 years through your gym, you're going to be able to sit in that seat and be like, don't worry about it. We got you. Yeah. And you're going to be so excited because if you can just get this person to move, and step into your program, you're going to solve 99% of what they've stated already.
Crazy. You know how you and I just love numbers and stats, and we're such geeks about that. So when I sold Formwell, I don't know how I did this math, but I figured out that I had helped over 5,000 people.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Amazing, dude. 5,000
between, and directly, not going to a speaking gig and talking to 300 people. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. I should do that, because think about this. So,
oh my gosh,
brick and mortar here, really high volume at one point, like 700 plus clients, right?
Yeah.
And we were doing a bunch of different product offerings.
Most you and I were both doing 2,500 sessions a month.
2,300 clubs licensed.
Right.
Each one of those clubs had, on average, we did this 10 trainers.
You should do this math.
Imagine how many clients have been touched by
We're going to pause the podcast and do a bunch of math right now.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I think we'll do that since we're, I mean, look, dude, I could do this all day with you. It's amazing. Yeah. This is like our steak dinners that we do. But let's do this, because we're probably in at like 30 minutes now.
Yep.
Let's take a break, take a leak. I'm going to get a refill on the whiskey, and then we'll come in for part 2 and do the last 2 points. What do you think?
Sounds great.
All right. See you in a bit.
Awesome.